I genuinely think this Drake lawsuit is genius. First off, I gotta give it to Ken. Generational hate. I've never seen somebody, well, I gotta admit, Joe Budden is the Skip Bayless of Drake. But Ken is since way, way back. And I've been watching Dead End Hip Hop since way back. Ironically, the first time I watched Dead End Hip Hop was on To Pimp a Butterfly. Amazing review. And because I love To Pimp a Butterfly, and I have it in my top 5 albums of the last decade, so I started Dead End Hip Hop because of that. One of my favorite channels, but I gotta be honest, when it comes to this, ever since May happened, the pure bias towards Kendrick's side is genuinely insane. They'll sprinkle sometimes like, what's your favorite Drake feature around this period of time to say they're not being biased, but wow, it's been generally an insane level of bias, especially from BZ 430 and from Ken. Generational hate when it comes to Ken. And listen, I laugh about it because I know Ken doesn't really like Drake like that at all. And it's always funny to me because we go back to Red Button on Scary Hours 3. The way that you see the video from Mike saying how great this album is, and then he switches up. Instead of saying great, I gotta go back to it, but he switches up. I don't remember the exact word he then uses. He just says like it's good. Because they really generally don't want to give that credit to Drake.
Drake made a whole project where he was rapping over this type of production, and he was rapping this well. Abso-fucking-lutely.
That's what I want.
I'm in agreement. If you took the few songs that I did like from for the dogs or whatever, and add this would be a fucking amazing. Not amazing. I'm capping, as the kids say, just because I like it so much. But it would be a really fucking good project. But
for whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, I remember way back when Mike was on the Dead End Hip Hop team and he was saying how bad If You're Reading This Is Too Late. It reminds me of how Joe Budden hated that project, and now he praises it nonstop, even after the insane type of hate he has for Drake right now because of that IG comment he left on the Joe Budden page. He praises that project too. So I see that back. It happens with Dead End Hip Hop too. It is what it is. Everybody can enjoy what they want to enjoy, right? But with Ken specifically, he even says on the Scary Hours 3 review, he says it like, it's so funny to me because he says that he basically can't even hate.
Take on this type of sound was good. You had a lot of good bars on it and stuff like that. So the response overall has been very positive. Even for me. So I definitely think you did your thing. So salute. Damn, I couldn't even hate, bro.
Yeah, you tried.
Couldn't even hate. I tried.
You definitely tried.
I was trying, bro.
Didn't succeed. Yeah, because you did lying, bro.
Yeah.
This is good to him. So he wanted to hate it, but it's good to him to the fact that he can't hate on it. And it reminds me, Red Button, this is genius because I go back to that and I always had that feeling. Like how Rory used to say, I always had that feeling it had to do with UMG. And this is a fact that Drake has had that issue with UMG for a long time. Go back at that tweet around 2011, 2012, 2013, where he's trying to say how he wants to release these tracks. UMG doesn't let him. And I would think that somebody like Ken and Dead End Hip Hop, who they specifically have had on that Is the Mic Still On podcast, a conversation about how Dead End Hip Hop should have more viewership, more subs, and more opportunities given to them. This came out of Ken's own mouth on the podcast, and I agreed with him every single time he kept talking about that. It was like a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. He had this conversation about how are these other people, streamers and everybody else, getting these opportunities, whereas we've been Dead End Hip Hop this whole time. We deliver great quality videos and on quantity too. And we're not getting these opportunities. You see like these white streamers and all this other stuff. He was talking about it. I was 100% agreeing with him. And this has to do in part with the music industry and UMG and how they actually factor everything in to who they promote on these algorithms. This has been always a game of manipulation. And I know this because I've had 4 YouTube channels. I live in Puerto Rico, and the amount of eyes I get to my channel, the monetization I get for my channel is completely different to people from the US. I have to promote my videos for them to be able to be seen unless I'm doing shorts. And shorts pay pennies. I get 9K views, I get like 62 cents. Some absurd thing. When you see that the lawsuit specifically talks about the fact that UMG charged Spotify a licensing fee of 30% less than usual for Not Like Us, in exchange, Spotify frequently recommends the song to users. That's a big deal because you're basically messing with the money of the other artists. And this is something that I see, and I generally don't understand how people that have these podcasts, they want to know what a stream is worth. If you're seeing this happen, this is actually a good thing for you, that somebody of Drake's position could take this lawsuit, regardless if you think he's benefited from it before. Over here, this makes sense to me. This makes the most sense to me, and it's actually a beneficial thing. I think this is what the red button was all about. I know for sure if Dead in Hip Hop, Frames Per Second, Is the Mic Still On, Joe Budden Podcast, Rory and Mal, Rory is actually in favor of this, and Mal as well. You could talk about biases, but I generally feel like if we're talking about, let's say, the Dead in Hip Hop Network, why would they not sue if they see, hold up, UMG's revenue, 90% comes from Spotify, and they own Spotify, a certain part of it, and they're helping boost this specific thing over here, and the licensing fee is 30% less than usual, so that Spotify actually recommends it to the users. Wait, that's some clear manipulation that is against the artist in general. So it's a good thing, this lawsuit. I don't see how this is anti-hip-hop at all. This is the whole idea of Kendrick being against the industry and fuck the industry. How is this not fuck the industry? Why would this be anti-hip-hop? This is against corporate greed, against corporatism. How would this not be a good thing? Drake doing it. So I generally don't see how this is damaging to his reputation. I think it's only people who just want to gloss over it and say he's suing Kendrick, which is not what he's doing, because UMG even told him basically that he should be suing Kendrick to take the blame off of them. But it's very clear that if UMG is doing this right now, when Drake is going to renew his deal, UMG will come with less money towards Drake because they say, nah, look, you have all this issue with this song, claiming you're this and you're that, which are bad things, are Not Like Us. So we got to give you less money because your reputation takes a hit. They did that intentionally because they don't want to pay him more for the next deal. Because Drake already got $400 million, and the licensing deal that he had with UMG is UMG gets to recover the money, the $400 million that they paid him, owning that masters and publishing during that period, and distributing the music, and the earnings go for UMG plus whatever they gain in additional value after the $400 million they recover. So Drake, once that deal ends, he gets his masters back entirely because he owns his masters. The licensing deal is finished and he owns all of his catalog. UMG doesn't like that for sure. And he has that $400 million that they gave him. So of course, that's too much power, right? I don't see how this is at any way a bad thing. I think it makes sense that Drake is doing this, and that's the red button. So you have to promote it if you live over here. So I understand that, because when he was talking about that in the podcast like a year ago, I was like, you're right, Ken. You've been doing this for a long time. You deserve these looks and this favorable algorithm. But a lot of these people don't like it because, especially if you're not putting music on your content, they can actually flag you now for that copyright ID, content ID claim, and get the revenue that you work so hard to get yourself. And they want to do this. So y'all can tell me they're having a great time, UMG, with the licensing deal they have with Drake, because they gave Drake $400 million and they get the rights to the music for that period of time, and they get their money back, recoup the $400 million and some extra money, of course, which is a lot. That's why they do that agreement with Drake. But You don't think for a second that UMG actually wants the catalog to themselves without having it to be a licensing agreement, licensing deal? They 1000% do. And who are they going to favor on certain points in time will change. No doubt there was a point in time where Drake was getting favored on Spotify. No doubt. I remember it too. But let's not be generally confused about what this lawsuit is doing, because you can say, Drake was a part of it. But I remember how Mike used to always say, you can battle against capitalism even if you're part of the system. It doesn't mean you favor it. Mike Seatown would always say this on a podcast, so listen to it. Once again, I'm doing this video not like a hate video or something like that. Like, I'm a genuine fan who's looking at it from a side that maybe is less biased to the K-Dot side, but I like both artists because Drake is my number one artist. Kendrick is my second favorite rapper, so Drake my favorite rapper and Kendrick my second, so there's that. And I think this has to do way deeper with music industry things, and knowing how Dead End Hip Hop, especially Ken, he likes to go into this whole trading and the different avenues where Wall Street especially likes to manipulate how shares are shorted and how they're going long on certain points. You know how this has to do, especially with music industry stuff as well. This isn't a BS lawsuit at all. And if there's somebody who could actually do it, it's Drake. It's not even Kendrick at this point. Because even after all this hate, and I laugh when I see the tweet from Ken saying that the little reputation Drake has left, he's about to ruin it. No, it's like, come on, Ken. Drake is still number one, 2024 number one selling. And on Spotify, even with all that quote unquote manipulation. And I remember how it was, because you could find anything else and Not Like Us would pop out at an insane level. I don't even remember it being like that for Drake in 2016 and 2018 when it was happening a lot on the playlist side. But right here, you would put Drake and Kendrick Lamar, Not Like Us, would actually show up. You would see a lot of other stuff. 1000% it was happening. So, do media darlings and music industry darlings change around time? 1000%. I understand the favor is towards K-Dot's side right now. But unfortunately, at times, it felt to me like there was a genuine anti-Drake propaganda happening on Dead End Hip Hop. And it was a bit disappointing to see, because I like the channel a lot. I like, my favorite podcast from them is Frames Per Second. I think Mike does a great job. He's still there. The way he says he writes notes for the movies. Their Heretic review was amazing. Ken is amazing on that because he's always funny to me. He's always funny. You think he's the funniest one. BC, he's not there, but I listen to his mic still on, so he's great over there. Of course, Modest Media. So I'm a big fan of these people. I don't know how they're going to take the video. I won't put a title that's very like, maybe quote unquote hate looking, because then it's going to look like I'm negative towards them. But I just thought it was interesting because I really don't think this is as simple as Drake loses his good reputation, what he has left. I think this is way deeper than that. Literally way deeper than rap. It's not even a cringy punchline. I think it's generally beyond that, because then Joe Budden comes out and says the whole catalog, 70s and 80s and 90s combined, Drake's catalog is worth that. Knowing UMG controls over 33% of the music business, then Warner Music Group and Sony. Of course, they control how music is navigated towards on YouTube, especially even when it comes to reviews and what they favor on the algorithm. So this is no surprise. I remember I used to do dance videos, freestyles, hip hop, and listen how this relates. I remember I did a dance freestyle to Rihanna's track, one of her popular tracks, the one Man Down. Great track, but this was a hip hop remix, which was to dance to. So I did a hip hop dance freestyle. I did it outside. I love the video. I love watching it. What happens? I get blocked. You guessed it, UMG. UMG always blocked The Weeknd's music for me. Every single time, even if I use it on fair use, blocked. Content ID, let's get the money from you. Unfair revenue sharing, barely ever happened. Basically never. You know this because you guys don't put the music for a reason. You want to make the money. That's why people go to Patreon as well. UMG controls how these things are manipulated. So if they control the content IDs, they also try to control what gets favored and what gets boosted for reviews and views and videos and opportunities. Same with Sony. They control through Osher distribution things that happen with Bad Bunny, and Universal Music Publishing Group has part of Bad Bunny as well, ironically. So there's a lot of that as well. Warner does it as well. If that happens, I remember when I used to do piano covers, I still do them time to time, but when I did a piano cover to not even a hip hop artist, Miley Cyrus, she even had an era where she was trying to go hip hop. I did for that specific album. I liked one of her tracks. I did a piano cover. It was just the melody and me singing it. No music involved. Guess what happens? Blocked, and I get disabled, monetized because of the music labels. Go look up who Miley Cyrus was with. Universal Music Group artist, Miley Cyrus. You have another case of UMG. I remember UMG being there when I saw who was actually taking away my videos. So, of course, they control and manipulate how things are going to be shared, how the algorithm drives, and they have those connections for the tracking content ID. And YouTube then has to do a swift movement towards what gets favored on the algorithm. So you've seen this happen to you, and you've talked about it, You think this is going to be a BS lawsuit from Drake? It's not a BS lawsuit. And listen, we're all civilians here, but this whole idea that this is somehow snitching has to be the dumbest thing I've seen. You guys aren't saying this. I just had to say it on Twitter. At least I haven't seen you guys say this. But people on Twitter saying the whole snitching thing sounds so ignorant, and you can tell it's other civilians saying this dumb stuff, because this is clearly nothing here has to do with that type of street life. So much respect to the street life. We have nothing to do with it. So I don't understand this whole point of how is this snitching. This is pure genius music business stuff. The battle has already happened. And he talked about this, not ironic, because this is actually intentional, on the project that you said that you couldn't hate on. You couldn't hate on Scary Hours 3 because it was that good. Red Button is specifically about all of this. Billboard, radio, talks about it specifically. If I press this red button, everything is heaven's gated. This changes, and we have to start to look at it. What is really the worth of a stream? When you have it for a podcast and people listen to 2 hours of your podcast, why is your stream worth 0.004? This is all very important. You could not maybe enjoy the fact that it's Drake doing the lawsuit, but think about it. Who else is going to be the person to do it? This is a chess move. I generally don't see how this isn't hip hop, because hip hop was taking the stance and doing the battle. Not hip hop was what J. Cole did. That's facts. You can't say Kendrick had a great year without admitting that Drake stepped up for the battle to happen. And it happened. This is why when I saw Mike Seatown, even before the battle started on May, saying, you don't want to get into this with Kendrick, Drake. Oh, the whole tweet that he was saying. I know that he's being maybe just funny and all that, but it's like, come on, man. I've been waiting for this for over 10 years. How are we not going to want this to happen? This is what we want literally to happen. I want to see Drake step up against Kendrick, the two biggest rappers. These are the two biggest rappers of my generation, so I've seen this. Good Kid, Mad City, Section 80. I've seen To Pimp a Butterfly, Damn, the big hits, Mr. Morale, which I didn't like, Drake, the whole catalog. If you're reading this, it's too late. More Life, Scorpion, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. Of course, I want to see the battle, but then I see Mike already trying to put down the Drake side when it wasn't even, the battle hadn't even started. And then every time a track came out, Ken was already like, nope, not enough. Nope, not enough. No. It's like, bro, not even giving it time to breathe like that. So that's why I was a bit funny with how I titled the whole things for Kendrick whenever they dropped the track against him, because I thought J. Cole did a great track and then he deleted it. That's not hip hop to me. Then Drake dropped a great track, so I thought they did destroy Kendrick there, so I titled it that. But then I did admit the general consensus was for Kendrick's side, and I titled how great Kendrick's tracks were when they were the very dark track, Meet the Grams, even though a lot of lies happened there. So maybe my side is more to maybe Drake's side, but I've been very genuine about how much I enjoy Kendrick. I gave it a great review for GNX. But it seems like over here sometimes it's felt like anti-Drake propaganda to the point where it's like everything Kendrick does is amazing. The greatest thing ever, Squabble Up. I expected more from that track. It's one of like the only 3 tracks that I didn't like includes that one from GNX. I like 9 tracks about it, but hopefully they see this and realize the lawsuit has a bigger meaning for sure, because the lawsuit came out a lot of pages and automatically it was like, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is that, it's gonna lose his reputation, instead of looking towards, wait, this is what's been happening to my content. Of course it's gonna happen to music content, and of course Spotify, UMG, they're gonna try to boost who they want to win, especially when they might want something else from the other catalog. Very obvious to me. If you have somebody who's winning 400 million, and once the contract ends, in this case Drake, he gets to recoup his catalog and he keeps owning his masters and everything. That's very big. If you want to actually battle against that in a way while you still have him there, and Drake has been complaining about how he can't release music, intentional, the 100 gigs thing, he's been complaining about this since 2011, way back. You're going to get Kendrick, who's part of the battle, the other big artist, and you could actually boost this to appear every single time. Since it's a great track, it's gonna do well, and it's gonna do even better. The narrative shifts towards Kendrick, and now everybody's somehow siding with the big corporations here. I thought we were anti-industry, so now for some reason it's trying to protect the industry because it's Drake doing the lawsuit, but everything that's being said is accurate. And Joe Budden was even talking about the bots. What is it? I see a lot of anti-Drake right now, and it's a bit disappointing, especially coming from that side. But either way, like I said, I love Frames Per Second. I listen to it as the mic's still on too, but Frames Per Second is great to me. I don't know if I'll be watching as much Dead in Hip Hop, because I don't think I've liked the way the Twitter page has gone towards. Especially, it's been like a pro Kendrick page just the whole time for me. But hopefully I could go back to some other videos for sure, because it just seems like right now it's just like boom, like that. I don't know how they take this video. I'm just talking, so hopefully they see somebody who's a genuine fan either way. Shout out to Mike, shout out to Rod, shout out to BZ, shout out to Ken. And I think they do great. I think they deserve more views. And I think hopefully Frames Per Second can keep growing, because I don't know how they don't even grow more. I don't know somebody who's doing better reviews, movie reviews, as a group. You tell me. I don't know. So I know what it is, because I've had it happen with my channels. That doesn't mean that every time something doesn't perform, the blame goes somewhere else. No. But here, you could clearly see that even with what they've done towards Drake, UMG, it's still number one. And they're not mad at it because they gotta get the money back from what they gave them for the licensing deal. So it's still number one for a reason. All this talk about Drake getting dethroned, what happened? Still number one. It is what it is. Kendrick just opened his mouth. Someone go hand him a Grammy right now. Where is your uncle at? Because I want to talk to the man of the house. That's funny to me though. But it is what it is, man.